this part of the session is about mindfulness, where and how to start. And my company is called Strange because it's an aggregation of strategy and change. And but it's strange because I always try to look at the little differences. So I try to do that here in this presentation also. I'm working mostly in governmental and non-profit organizations. So I'm actually not saving lives by being mindful. But what I think we do, me and my colleagues, I think we, by being mindful, we help solve more issues in our societies. So that's kind of life-saving also, but then on the long term. So what can you expect in the next 20 minutes? I will talk a little faster. I'm going to tell you something about the City of Amsterdam. I've worked there on a project, and I use staff rights to provoke a sense of urgency. But before going there, I decided, I was working on this yesterday evening, and there were two things on my mind, and they're still on my mind. And the first thing is being mindful as an interventionist. I'm an interventionist, so not a business consultant. I call myself an interventionist because I think it's a little bit different. How can I be mindful doing that? And then I can talk about the staff rights to provoke this sense of urgency. And where to start on this conference, being mindful as a guest speaker. I was thinking about that too. So I want to start with this last issue first. So how can I, or can we actually be mindful during this conversation? Because I'm speaking here, you're listening. I don't know if that's the best way to transfer my experience to you. I don't know. So I was thinking about that. Can experience be transferred to others? I don't know. What could be helpful methods in doing that? Well, I thought of some things, maybe storytelling, that seems to be the American way, storytelling to each other. Introducing language to talk about experience. Luckily, Carl White did that for me already. And asking questions about your experience. I can ask questions to you. That's also an option. And I can invite you here and now to experience yourself. I think that's a great way, then you can do more than just listen. So I will do that. I will invite you also. So I'll invite you right now. Are you preoccupied with failure? Are you reluctant to simplify? And do you have sensitivity to operations right now? I don't know. Can I recognize this? Can I see this in your body language or by the way you're looking at me at this moment? What can I see? How can I see this? I thought about these questions. Maybe you can do too, so you know how to listen to this presentation. Being mindful, I don't know. Now, going to being mindful as an interventionist, that was the second part. How can I do that? I can imagine about how I can fail. How can I fail as an interventionist? Well, I can do that by helping organizations with what they think is the answer to their problem. That happens a lot. So most of the times, people will come up to me and say, well, can you give me a lecture or something, or can you do a training about, I don't know, high reliability, for example. But you're not sure that's really the answer to the problem they're facing. Most of the times it isn't actually. That's a really great thing. You almost can expect that the thing they ask from you will not be that what helps them. So that's something I think a lot of consultants can go wrong. Also, I can go wrong there. I could miss weak signals in the first moments of interaction. The first moments I enter a room, the first moments I enter a lobby even. I can miss these weak signals, and then later on, when the project went wrong, say, oh, I could have seen that in this first moment. This is in these first moments, these two. But the other two are true too. I can simplify, search for the one true definition of the problem that needs to be solved. You see, that happen a lot. Consultants come in and they try to define the problem, and in defining the problem, there's already narrowing down. So I can do that and then go wrong, or fail, and I take over and my client is depending on me. That's something that could happen too. So this is when I just imagine about failure. So before I went to Amsterdam to do this project, I just thought about how can I fail here? And what can I do to prevent that, if I can prevent it? So I think what I'm saying is that the first interactions, this first period of defining, this period of negotiation, what am I doing here in this organization, in the City of Amsterdam, for example, is the most important. You do 50% of the work there. So it's all about what we call the intake. I don't know if you call it the same, the first conversation, or the first couple of conversations. So I want to tell you something about examples in the City of Amsterdam, where I did a couple of these intakes. The first one was in March 2007. I had a meeting at what we call in Dutch kunstwerken. Who is working there are the people that work on the bridges and the tunnels in the City of Amsterdam. They're fixing it all day. They call the department who works on that kunstwerken. I don't know the proper English word for it. So I came in and I met this little guy who had a bit of a limp here, and I shook his hand and we sat down, and the first thing I noticed, he has all these cactuses in his room. And I was like, cactuses? They're so ugly, what is this? So I asked him, why are there cactuses here in this room? Well, and he said, I like them. I like them because of their diversity. I didn't even see that. Probably the sticks were up a little bit different there. So, and then he pointed out to another plant in the corner of the room, and he said, well, that one there, it's not mine. That's a real plant. It's been taken care of by external people. So that was the beginning of our conversation, because I was the external one too. So I thought, okay, what do you need from me here? And he said, well, I have all these workers. They go on ships all day, and they work on the bridges in Amsterdam. They love doing that, but they are not cooperate with each other. So can you help me doing that? Can you train them? So I was imagining how that would be. Being in a room with all these tough Amsterdam guys who are used to being on boats, and then training by me. It was a horror to think about that. I thought, I won't do that. So I asked them, what do you need? What do you want? What must happen? And he sat down, just eased up, and he said, I really want them to be happy, because they weren't happy for the last 20 years, and I made so many mistakes here, being a leader. I wasn't a real leader. I want to change that. So suddenly he moved to his heart, I think, or to his emotions, and I said, that's what we are going to do. We are going to the bridges where their hearts are. They love the bridges. They tell their children about those bridges in Amsterdam. So we go there and we talk about what happens, what unexpected events happened. And I could think about this because the other day I was talking to Bert, and he just read Managing the Unexpected, and he was talking to me about these staff rights that were done by firefighters. So I thought, hey, I don't know what I'm selling here, but I probably can transfer it to kunstwerk. So that's what we did. And I will tell you about that a little bit later. I've been there for a year, and then in September 2008, the board of what you could say is DITT, it's infrastructure, transportation, and something. Well, that's the company that's where Kunstwerken is one of the parts of. So I meet on a higher level with the board of the whole company. And they heard about what I did at Kunstwerken, and they're very enthusiastic. And they want me to do the same there. The same, exactly the same. Please, give us staff rights. And I'm like, well, that can be tricky because I don't know what your problem is here, and I don't know if that's an answer to it. So that's the first question. I can just do staff rights, but hey, what will that do? So the funny thing is that I'm talking to these people, and then I suddenly notice that two of them aren't really in the board, but they are advisors of the board. And I said, well, who has a problem actually? You as advisors of the board or the board? And who wants these staff rights? And they said, well, we want them because we want to move this board a little bit forward here. And we didn't succeed until now. So we thought you were successful there, so maybe we can get you in and we can be successful here too. Well, that's not the way it works, of course. So I said, okay, let's have a meeting with the board and ask them what they want and how they want to move forward. So then we had a meeting with the board, and I met the top executive, and he was about to get retired in 3 months. He didn't want anything. So I said, well, we can do these staff rights, but what do you get out of it? And the guy was amused because every consultant he met up until then wanted a job. So he was laughing that I didn't. And he said, well, would I like those staff rights if I joined those? And I said, well, maybe you see some things you aren't used to seeing. So maybe we can help you see and discover things you never saw before. And from that point on, we did a whole bunch of other stuff. We didn't do the staff rights eventually. We worked at the board first to prepare them for the staff rights. But in that process, we stumbled on so many things that we didn't even come to the staff rights, and it wasn't necessary either. Well, in May 2009, there was a meeting of the Alliance of 6 departments. So DITT was one of those departments, and there were 6. They heard about the success, and they wanted to do staff rights. They wanted to do, because everything was about cooperation. How can we cooperate better? We have all these different departments, and how can we cooperate better? And the funny thing is that even in the first conversation, you notice why they're not working together. You can see it immediately. It's the way they open up the door and give you a hand or shake your hand. And they don't notice the other guy who's sitting there in the room too. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can understand you're not working together. So why? And in this first conversation, you can see all those little points, and also you can imagine what not to do in becoming part of their rituals and their habits. Because then you're not solving their problem. So these first moments of interaction are very important to me. I call it the art of intervening, I think. Negotiating with the client before starting a project, but this is for interventionists, but for all project managers, for everybody, I think, who works on a project. You can always ask these 4 questions. What problem is this really an answer to? That's the first one. It's the most important one. I always ask that. Why am I here? What problem is this an answer to? Who experiences a sense of urgency? Sometimes only the consultant experiences a sense of urgency, not the client. You have a problem there. which people and therefore perspectives are included, and therefore also which perspectives are excluded, and can I include them into this project? And what cannot be questioned or touched? What is a ritual that is so, yeah, I don't know, it just clinged here, that you cannot question it anymore? And then question it, of course, some way around. So where to start? Maybe you can think of a project you're working on at this moment and ask yourself these 4 questions for a while, and maybe talk to your neighbor about it, just for 1 minute. See if you can recognize these things in your own project. Maybe you can hook up there a little bit and just take 1 minute to find out if these questions help you anyway. Maybe you two can hook up or something, I don't know.
Not $1 billion.
Okay, maybe I can get your attention back here. You can talk about these questions for hours and hours, actually. There's a lot behind these questions. Thank you for experimenting with it a little bit. There's a lot to talk about. All of these 4 questions, it took me about 10 years to learn which each question really means, but to experience this can be helpful maybe. So what can you expect the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes? The City of Amsterdam. So I thought yesterday evening, being mindful takes up a lot of energy and time actually, because you have to be aware all the time what you're doing. I have to talk in English now and look at you and see if you're still interested and maybe change something if this is necessary. So I have to be mindful all the time. It's hard working actually. So that's why I let you work a little too. So in talking in these 3 examples of these first interactions, let's give a couple of conclusions. They aren't necessarily true, but this is a situation. So the Department of Infrastructure, Traffic and Transport, that's the right thing, DITT, in the City of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. That's where it's about. The assignment to me was improving the collaboration between employees working in different sections of the organization. And that went on and on and on until there were even 6 departments who asked for the same question. The lack of collaboration so far resulted in, roughly said, much simplified here, it resulted in critical articles in the papers and in the decision of an alderman to resign. I don't know if you heard from the north-south line in Amsterdam, where the houses started to collapse when they were drilling a hole through the streets. That happened, and that was part of the fault of DITT, you can say. So that was happening there, and an alderman had to resign because of that. So they had a kind of problem here. But they work with a large number of organizations and departments and etc. And that work, they all work on this same infrastructural project. You see, this is the north-south line there. The management and workers at the DITT have gotten used to things going wrong, fixing problems at the last minute. Because it happens so often, well, you get used to it. And they shrug when they hear what went wrong this time. They got numbed in a way. So how do you deal with numbed people? How can you get them mindful again? I thought up the staff rights because I think it's not only a method of blame-free evaluation of things, but you can also create a sense of urgency because people feel they're on the side and they feel, oh my God, it's going wrong here. So I introduced staff rights to provoke a sense of urgency. The way I'm talking about this now is much smarter than at the moment when we were talking on the cactuses. It was just something that hit me. I have to do something that goes to the heart of the people working there. And now I can talk about it like, well, it was really thought up. And what do you do at staff rights? You choose some unexpected events. This choosing period is of the essence. Who do you take with you when you choose, and what is a good example, what isn't? Well, that's a lot of work goes in there. Then there is the preparation by the owner of the event. Some people are owners of events, or we call them owner, and they will prepare. And there are we invite three storytellers who tell from different perspectives about the event that happened. And then there are three groups of managers and employees that are asking blame-free questions. The blame-free questioning is the hard part also. They make a reconstruction of the timeline. We put on a huge piece of paper there and we make a huge timeline with the different perspectives also. And then we're looking for what I tend to call dysfunctional patterns. What patterns can we see over and over again? So that's the method we use. So one night we are in the I-tunnel. That's one of the tunnels in Amsterdam. And they could close it because they had to repair things anyway. So we could go in. And we did that. We had three storytellers, one owner, and three groups of managers and employees. We did this, and what was the hard part was the blame-free questioning. People are so used in reacting here. So the first person says, well, I was... also, what they tell you about, that's the difficult part too. They tell you about concepts. They don't tell you the experience. They don't tell it in terms of what they have experienced. I was in this room, then I met this person. He was wearing a blue sweater. Things you can see. They don't say that. They said, well, we met each other. And now everybody knows what happened. We met each other. No, you don't know. You don't know where. You don't know what, with how many people. You don't know if they were sitting or standing. You don't know. So asking on and on and on and on about where were you, what happened, what did you see, these little details is the difficult part. And everybody, even yesterday in the pre-conference, I noticed that people react. You hear something, you think you know what they're talking about, and you react on that. But you don't know what they're talking about because your meaning of that word is different than the person who's talking. So that's the difficult thing in these staff rights. But even practicing that gives something to this organization, because they practice to really talk and listen to each other. Yeah, a few minutes, okay. So the blame-free principle has 4 major things. We postpone our interpretations and judgments. We do that by including multiple perspectives, so that's why there are 3 storytellers. We ask participants to tell their story in terms of observations, and we do not look for guilty parties. That's the idea behind this. To conclude this, a staff right is not an easy, can use it anywhere, anytime intervention. Mindfulness does apply here. And being mindful here, up here, means taking a lot of time looking at those little things. So I hope you enjoyed experiencing the 4 questions you can ask in these first moments of interaction, and experience this blame-free questioning. So please continue doing this around this conference. Thank you.